The man, who was home alone, noticed that the lights in his house began to flicker unexpectedly. Feeling confused and a bit unnerved, he instinctively reached for his phone to record what was happening. He knew that if he didn't capture this moment, no one would believe him when he shared his experience. He explained afterward that this moment was the scariest experience of his life, and that he would never wish to relive it, no matter the price.
Amigo, o estoy loco o se está moviendo la mesa del comedor sola. Mira. O sea, ¿ves? ¿Ves que se está moviendo eso? Y la mesa recién se estaba moviendo ahí, boludo. Mirá, 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 boludo. ¿Qué mierda? What the fuck?
To his horror, a table in the room began to move aggressively, shifting on its own in a manner that seemed dangerous. The man, who was standing behind the camera, knew that he was in harm's way. He described feeling an overwhelming sense of cold wash over him as the table moved, and his hairs stood on end, a typical physical reaction when a spirit is nearby. The following day, the same man was sitting on his sofa, watching TV, when his air purifier suddenly unplugged itself. Without hesitation, he grabbed his phone again and began recording, hoping to capture further evidence of the strange happenings.
Amigo, ¿te acordás que te dije que tengo un espíritu en mi casa, chabón? Mirá la silla. ¿Qué, boludo? ¡Ay, qué impresión, amigo!
As he filmed, a chair directly in front of him moved on its own. This time, there was no denying that something supernatural was at work. The man's account was no longer just a story, it was undeniable proof that something in his house didn't belong. Whatever entity was haunting him, it was. In the following video, Ashraf, a young adult, had lost a bet with his group of friends. The punishment for losing the bet was to enter an abandoned hospital for 20 minutes and film it as proof of his bravery. If he failed the challenge, he would owe each of his friends $100, which would total nearly $1,000, a sum Ashraf couldn't afford to lose, especially since he was already struggling financially. The idea of going into an abandoned hospital, especially after hearing countless stories about such places being haunted, made him nervous. However, determined to avoid the hefty penalty, he braved the challenge. Upon entering the dark, desolate hospital, he was initially struck by how eerily quiet and lifeless it felt. Surprisingly, there was no immediate feeling of dread or unease. In fact, Ashraf felt a sense of warmth and comfort that made the place seem almost welcoming, an experience he hadn't anticipated. However, this feeling of comfort didn't last long. Just 10 minutes into his exploration, the atmosphere in the hospital drastically changed. A cold chill swept over him, and he began to feel a growing sense of fear creeping in.
Escuchen, no manchen. Hoy. A lo mejor es el aire, amigos. A lo mejor es el aire. A lo mejor es el aire que está dando el abanico.
Él se regresó por el otro lado. No, mire que es, amigos, fue mi imaginación. O se regresó por el otro lado, amigos. Ve cómo se desenfoca. ¿Alguien está aquí? ¿Alguien está aquí? Escucho que camina alguien. Escucho que camina alguien. Se quedó parado. Se quedó parado.
To his shock, the ceiling fan, which had been stationary when he first entered, suddenly started rotating on its own. This wouldn't have been so alarming if it had been spinning at a normal speed, but it wasn't. Instead, the fan moved unnaturally slowly, almost as though something was pushing it from above or below, rather than an electric current doing the trick. The sight of the fan moving like that caused Ashraf's heart to race, and his sense of comfort disappeared completely. It was at that moment that he realized there was something more to this abandoned hospital than just dust and decaying walls. Whatever was in there with him, he wasn't sure, but he viewed as some of the eeriest places to visit. Long, narrow corridors, filled with empty units, typically void of life or activity, create an unsettling atmosphere. These places have a way of making you feel as though you're in a space far removed from reality, akin to stepping into the back rooms of an eerie alternate world. Juan and Manuel, two business owners, were adding stock to their storage unit one day when they encountered something that left them shaken. Suddenly, the sound of a child crying and screaming echoed throughout the storage area. This unsettling noise could only be explained by two possibilities: a real child in need of help, or a spirit attempting to communicate. Juan had heard the same disturbing noises the previous week, but it was only now that he told Manuel about it. Fearing the worst, they quickly locked the storage unit and left the building, anxious to escape the strange, otherworldly sounds. When they spoke to the receptionist, they were shocked to learn that she hadn't heard anything. Later that day, when Juan was in his office, trying to focus on paperwork, he was startled once again. Out of nowhere, objects in his office began falling off the shelves. It wasn't an earthquake, and there was no apparent explanation for the chaotic scene. Even now, Juan and Manuel have no idea how to rid themselves of the spirit haunting their storage unit. If anyone has suggestions, they are desperate to hear them. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. The video you are about to see was captured by CCTV at a daycare and showcases a very strange occurrence that defies explanation. Normally, when ghosts decide to haunt a person, they typically engage in behaviors like moving objects or making strange noises to frighten their victims. These paranormal activities are often unsettling, but don't usually result in any physical damage or destruction of valuable items. However, that's not always the case, as this chilling footage demonstrates. In this particular video, a group of children was playing in the daycare's designated playroom under the watchful eye of a security guard. The guard, monitoring the children via CCTV, was startled when something absolutely bizarre was caught on camera. Watch for yourself and see if you can make sense of it.
John, how is it doing that? John, how is it doing that? But wait, John, it's about to break on its own. It's gonna break on its own.
You have to watch it until it breaks. That's when I start crying.
Watch, John. Are you watching this thing? Yeah. It's not moving. No. Oh, in there. No, watch. Watch, John. Watch.
That hurts so bad.
Nobody listens to me. There's ghosts in here. Nobody listens to me.
Watch it.
It's about to go crazy and break. It's still moving! It's still moving, y'all! It's still moving! It's still moving!
If it floats in the air and goes for the child, I'm gonna freak out.
It just moves. It's so good. It just came out. It's so good.
My hand's shaking. I can't.
How's this funny?
It's not like this or like this. It's not like
Poor Brooke, get in the path of the demon.
She's like, maybe I should put my feet on the table.
I feel like I need to be away from this kid.
Oh my god.
What in the world?
When you record this stuff out loud, we need to make it the way you're gonna do it. We should have sent to the scary 100 people.
Nobody listens to me. There's ghosts in this building, and nobody listens to me. I don't know if it's demons, I don't know if it's ghosts, but there is something in this building.
Because I'm telling you, like we've seen it, 8 years, stuff has just disappeared.
In an astonishing turn of events, a cue stick, which was initially stationary, began to move on its own. As if by some unseen force, the cue made its way across the room and slammed into a nearby table, breaking it into two separate pieces. What's truly strange about this event is that, While the children present were seemingly unaffected by this bizarre occurrence, the adults who were watching the footage were visibly shaken. If you have a rational explanation for what happened, feel free to share it in the comments section, but I personally believe this was the work of a spirit, one with far more strength than most. Considered some of the creepiest children's toys in history, the unsettling idea of a small, lifeless figure that mimics human characteristics has been a central theme in many horror films involving paranormal activity. Dolls have often been depicted as vessels for evil spirits, haunted by forces beyond our comprehension. It's no surprise that they have become so widely recognized as symbols of fear in the supernatural genre. In the next video, a trio of individuals were spending time in their garden, inspecting their collection of dolls. They had recently acquired these dolls from various sources, and there was a strange, unsettling aura surrounding them. Something about them just didn't feel right. One of the dolls, in particular, was causing the group to feel uneasy. A doll dressed in pink. Just before they began recording, they noticed something disturbing. The doll in pink moved its arm. At first, it was a subtle movement, but that was only the beginning of a much more unsettling series of events.
Interesting. I really don't know what to make of these dolls. I know that they all are haunted dolls. I'm pretty much 100% sure now that they are all haunted for sure. I mean, we already know that the big one is because we've seen her move in my office. All you fans out there have seen her do something. I'm not taking her with me when I move, so if any of you are interested in that doll, please let me know, because I don't want to keep her, but I'd like her to go to a good home. I mean, if there's somebody out there that's interested. I don't... Did that
Oh my god, that's
fucking thing just move?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me?
Her
Did
freaking face just moved towards you.
Oh my god, Heather.
Like that legitly just moved.
Oh
Did you
my
see
god.
that?
Yeah,
Clay, did you see that shit?
At first.
When you said you're not taking her with you.
Oh my god.
What was that?
I don't know, I just
I
heard
just
that.
heard a girl's voice.
Are you serious? That wasn't one of you?
No.
Oh my god. Oh my god,
my
she
God.
really just move?
Her face.
Oh hell no.
What the hell, Mom?
Oh my god. Heather, I got the cold chills from the top of my head to
Yeah,
my
I have-
freaking toe. Oh my god.
What the hell?
Oh my god, I cannot believe this shit.
I know, this is just insane.
This is freaking crazy, Heather.
You guys
She
will
actually
see her dog
moved.
move, and then this wind chime behind us just went crazy. Like, I don't know what to think of this. And then this doll here definitely
Wow.
moved.
I'm like blown away here. I am so blown away. The fuck is that? What is that?
The wind.
The first major incident occurred when the eldest of the group, who had been discussing passing the doll on to a new owner, interested in acquiring haunted items, noticed that the doll tilted its head in her direction. It was as if the doll was silently protesting the idea of being given away, or worse, it could have been expressing resentment toward the notion of leaving the group's care. The next eerie event was even more shocking. As they continued to discuss the doll, the bells in the backyard suddenly began ringing loudly, though there was no wind and no one around to explain the noise. It felt as if the entire garden had come to life, and the entity controlling the doll had begun to assert its dominance over everything in its surroundings. The family was shaken by the experience and eventually decided to move out of the house, fearing that they were not safe there any longer. They handed the doll over to a collector of haunted memorabilia, who was thrilled to add it to his collection. He kept the doll in a glass case, fascinated by its movements and strange powers, but at least for the family, the doll was a group of paranormal investigators who call themselves Memorable Supernatural INC. They were called to investigate a building that had been the site of numerous reports of supernatural activity over the past month. The activity had been so intense that someone had to come in to investigate the source of these disturbances. The group was selected because of their solid reputation, their experience with similar cases, and their affordable rates, making them perfect for this mid-range investigation. Despite the investigation being classified as a relatively routine case, the events that transpired during their visit proved to be anything but ordinary.
Quer me matar do susto, velho? Rapaz do céu, mano. Eu rio, Lu, porque eu tô aqui, pessoal. Essa claridade pega no meu, eu não consigo ver. Igual da outra vez, ó. A luz pega, eu não consigo ver, pessoal. Não adianta o negócio aqui, fica no olho, ó. Eu não consigo ver. Rapaz do céu, moço. Rapaz, você é louco, moço. Pessoal, vou ser sincero pra vocês, cara. O coração quase voou na boca agora, mano. Você é louco, olha minha nossa. Olha isso.
At one point, a cabinet inexplicably opened and then closed on its own. There was no one around, and no apparent cause for the movement. Nothing could explain how it happened. The investigator looked inside the cabinet, hoping to find some explanation, but there was nothing inside. No wind, no drafts, nothing that could have caused such a forceful movement. It was clear to him that something supernatural was at work here. He quickly ended the recording and sent it to his boss, who was compiling a report for their clients. While this was certainly compelling evidence, it was just the beginning of what would unfold over the course of their investigation. Later that day, after taking a break from their search, a strange disturbance occurred that would leave even the most experienced ghost hunters baffled.
Você vai tirar a camiseta aí, ok, Lúcio?
Pode ver ali, ó. Não tá ali. Ai, meu Deus.
Minha nossa, dá uma olhada aí atrás.
Aí.
Olha isso, pessoal. Cara do céu, velho. Arrasta o sofá. Arrasta esse sofá. Arrasta.
Out of nowhere, a carpet that had been neatly arranged on a sofa suddenly flung itself off onto the floor. The two investigators were startled by this and quickly called for the others to come and witness what had just occurred. However, by the time the others arrived, there was no physical evidence of the event left, only the footage. Despite this, the team knew they had enough evidence to confirm that the house was indeed haunted. They decided to make one last attempt to rid the property of the spirit. The contract they had with the owner stated that if they could successfully exorcise the spirit, they would receive an additional $300. This was an incentive none of them were willing to pass up.
Veja que eu levanto o braço. O que é isso? O que é que você tá sentindo?
Cara, viu uma coisa esquisita, parece que tem algo.
Tá tremendo a mão, Lúcio? Olha o jeito da vela, cara. É torta ou não é, pessoal? O meu nome é Ulisses Deadline. E eu sei que minha presença desloca espíritos obscuros de lugares e cantos como esse. Quem é que está aqui? Opa, que é isso? Que é isso? Rapaz!
Equipment in the kitchen and began a ritual to communicate with the spirit and understand its motives for haunting the house. But things quickly escalated. As they began their ritual, chairs in the room began to move on their own. This was a bad sign. When attempting to communicate with a spirit, it's considered dangerous if the spirit begins moving objects without being prompted. The chair's movement was a clear indication of the spirit's aggression, and the group decided it was best to end their session. They walked away knowing that $300 wasn't enough to deal with such an overwhelming and powerful entity. The contract had failed, and the owner would have to find the spirit was still nearby, watching over him.
Okay, I am up here where all the different, scary activity has happened, and I'm hearing what sounds like somebody walk around on the floorboards. As I'm up here, I can feel, the pressure of steps landing around me. I don't really know what's going on. It just seems pretty fucking crazy to me. I don't know. This is not what I signed up for when I got this house.
While walking upstairs one day, Alex noticed a silhouette in the doorway of one of the rooms. It was a perfect, unmistakable shape, and it resembled his grandmother exactly. Upon reviewing the footage, Alex was even more convinced that he had captured his grandmother's spirit on film. When he showed the video to his family, they dismissed it as the result of his grief, explaining that it was likely just a reflection or a shadow. But Alex wasn't so sure. He believed, with every ounce of his being, that what he had seen was real. Was it just his grief playing tricks on him, or had he really captured his grandmother's ghost?